Joining me now, we welcome back to the hour Sean Spicer, Communications Director for the RNC. And Sean, it's great to have you back on. As we all know, and as we covered, that tape arguably made it a lot harder for Mitt Romney to win the election, and it reemerges just as Romney himself publicly reemerges to a crowd. The guy behind this, Scott Prouty, he's a regular guy, an independent. He says he's not tied to any political organization. So in your estimation and from the RNC standpoint, how much do these comments continue to haunt Romney and haunt the party?
Well, there's no question they're not helpful. I think Governor Romney said so much, and so part of the reason that we're moving forward, and again, I think what we can't do is not learn lessons from what happened in November, not only in the presidential election, but in throughout the entire party, and that's what we've been focused on doing, is trying to say, what do we need to do better? Unquestionably, comments like that and messaging like that don't help us. So we have been focused on trying to figure out what's the way forward, messaging, tone, demographics, the whole sort of spectrum, if you will, of what it's going to take to grow our party and win more elections.
So you talk about messaging and you talk about tone. So CPAC's organizers, they have caught some flack because they excluded rising GOP stars like the governors Chris Christie and McDonnell of Virginia. And our first read sums it up like this, saying CPAC reflects the current state of the Republican Party just 4 months after its second straight presidential defeat. And what is that current state? Well, it's in the midst of an identity crisis. In the RNC's view, Sean, is it a misstep to not invite those two governors that have a high approval rating and not speak at CPAC, because they always don't toe the conservative line? They might not meet the purity test for CPAC.
Right. Well, I can tell you that we think highly of both Governor McDonnell and Governor Christie. As you pointed out, they're extremely popular. They've done great things within their states, and we're very proud that they're shining stars in our party. Governor McDonnell just had a very successful tenure as chairman of the Republican Governors Association. Governor Christie's been a leader in that organization as well. We think very highly of them. I think a lot of CPAC, but it's not our decision who speaks and who doesn't speak at CPAC. So I get it, but it's also CPAC is not the RNC, and the RNC is not CPAC. They decide for themselves who they're going to invite. And I think as someone who watched a chairman and team put together a convention, there's always more speakers than there are roles. I don't really want to get into how they have to make their decision on who got to speak and when and how. And I think there were plenty of people who sort of wondered why we didn't have so-and-so speak at such time during the convention. Those are all very tough decisions. I'm not here to second-guess CPAC, but I can tell you from an RNC standpoint, both of those governors are extremely successful because they are getting things done, and we think very highly of them here at the RNC.
All right, so moving forward, let's talk about specifically the RNC, because on Monday the 18th, your boss, Reince Priebus, is going to release what many have been referring to as the autopsy of the 2012 election. This is the investigation, the information that the RNC has put together to move forward. And Reince recently discussed that autopsy and attributed election losses to this very network. Take a listen.
You're going to see the skeleton of this plan start to roll out in the next few weeks. And if you look real hard, you'll see that I've made comments and it's similar to what I just told you on this issue in the press over the last couple weeks, and that controlling the debate process, getting involved in moderators and networks and all of these other issues so that we don't have chaos. I mean, we just can't have MSNBC hosting a debate at the Reagan Library only to have their network make the commentary afterwards for 3 hours about the debate of the Republican Party. I mean, it's ridiculous.
So, Sean, is the autopsy going to give substantial results, other than finger-pointing at the media, as to what went wrong, where the election went off track for Republicans?
Well, I think first, I don't think there's much finger-pointing at the media per se in the report. The report and the response, more specifically, will be a very forward-looking document as to what we can do to improve our party, help grow and win. One of the areas, as you pointed out, is going to be the primary process, the debates, the convention, etc. I think there's going to be several recommendations in that area that we think will improve our chances going into 2016. But with respect to the debates, I do think that there's an area where we have to look at how our candidates, whether there's too many, how they're being held, who's moderating them. Those are very important. Remember, these are debates and a process by which the party is and its members are choosing its nominee. And I think there's been a lot of criticism from both the candidates themselves and the grassroots about how that process worked.
Sean Spicer, Communications Director for the RNC. Sean, it's nice to have you here. Thank you.